When my parents retired and moved to Greece, I inherited our family home. As a single man in his early 30s, the two-story house felt too large. When I lost my job during the pandemic, I decided to rent out some of the space. After prepping the rooms, I advertised both the upstairs and the basement. My upstairs ad attracted some interest, but no takers. Then, a family of 4, the Walters, showed up interested in the basement. They were an odd group, with the parents and 2 sons dressed too formally. Despite the basement's limitations, they decided to rent it. I grew suspicious of their behavior, finding them standing in odd positions or locations without reason. One evening, I ventured into their space and found the family eerily still, standing against the wall. Their behavior became even more unusual, with the mother, Layla, appearing misshapen and unnatural one night. Upon further investigation, I noticed a moving cooler in the basement. When I approached, a creature resembling a dog but disturbingly unnatural lunged at me. Frightened, I fled the house and checked into a motel. However, the Walters followed. They surrounded the motel, and I spotted multiple versions of them, each with their own deformities. Panicking, they proposed a bizarre trade, that is to chew on a tissue and give it to them. Confused and terrified, I was stuck in a nightmare. It was hard to believe what she was asking me, but the desperation in my voice was clear. "What do you want with a piece of tissue?" "We just want a sample," explained Anders. "A little piece of you. We need to improve." All around me, the figures outside the window and door grew more restless, their malformed features becoming more pronounced in the dim light. My mind raced as I tried to figure out how to escape this nightmare. Taking a deep breath, I quickly ran to the bathroom, grabbed some tissue, chewed on it, and threw it out the window to them. Almost immediately, the rattling and knocking ceased. The voices grew silent. After what felt like an eternity, I peeked out of the window. The Walters family was gone. The parking lot was empty. Everything seemed calm. I packed my belongings and checked out of the motel immediately, driving as far away from the town as I could. Over the following days, I tried to make sense of the events, but nothing seemed to fit. The Walters family was a mystery I couldn't solve, and I didn't want to. Over the next few weeks, I sold the family home, never setting foot in it again. The new owners never reported anything unusual. Maybe the Walters had moved on, or maybe they had found their perfect sample. To this day, I don't know who or what the Walters were, or what they wanted with me. All I know is that I never want to encounter them or anything like them again. The experience serves as a chilling reminder that there are things in this world that we can't explain, and that sometimes it's better not to dig too deep. After losing my factory job, I found an ad for a night shift security guard position at a local funeral home. Maurice, an elderly man, hired me immediately. When I arrived for orientation, he stressed the importance of respecting the dead. On my first night, I settled into the office with coffee and my iPad, occasionally checking the security cameras. A couple of hours in, I noticed Maurice banging on the front door, demanding to be let in for his medication. But something was off. He claimed to have driven a car when I knew he owned a red truck. His voice grew deep and aggressive, but when I confronted him, he simply smirked and left. Later, I saw a group of people on the camera in the area where the bodies were kept. When I went to investigate, I found them alive and conversing. They told me they were temporarily brought back to life and would return to their deceased state soon. Among them was a woman who had been brutally murdered. She described her attacker. At the end of my shift, Maurice returned, hinting that he knew more about the strange events of the night. He promised we would discuss everything soon. The following night, the mysterious incidents intensified. I began seeing reflections of the deceased in mirrors, their whispers echoing through the halls. The spirits seemed more restless, some pleading for help, others sharing tales of their demise. The butchered woman returned, more insistent. She showed me glimpses of her final moments and the tattooed man who took her life. Haunted by her story, I began researching unsolved murders in the area and discovered a recent case that matched her description. One evening, as I patrolled the corridors, I encountered a shadowy figure with a distinct snake tattoo on his arm. Before I could react, he vanished into the darkness. Days turned into weeks, and the funeral home's secrets deepened. Maurice, sensing my distress, finally sat me down. He revealed the funeral home's history, a place where the line between the living and the dead was blurred. He explained that the spirits were drawn to me because of my open mind and empathy. Determined to help the murdered woman find peace, I collaborated with local detectives, providing them with the details she had given me. The information led to the arrest of a suspect, confirming the link between the funeral home's restless spirit and an unsolved crime. Grateful for the closure, the woman's spirit appeared to me one last time, thanking me and fading away. With her departure, the funeral home grew calmer, but the occasional whisper or shadowy figure reminded me of the thin veil separating our worlds. Maurice and I continued working together, respecting the dead and ensuring their stories were never forgotten. In the small town of Eldridge, two friends, Clara and Lydia, worked night shifts at the local hospital. Clara was a nurse, and Lydia was a lab technician. The hospital, with its long, winding corridors and flickering lights, had a reputation for being haunted, but the two friends always brushed off such tales as mere myths. One chilly night, Lydia received a blood sample labeled Room 313 for testing. Room 313 was a room that had been sealed off for years due to a mysterious fire that had taken place there decades ago. Curiosity piqued, she showed the vial to Clara. The two friends decided to investigate the room, thinking it might have been a prank by some of the other staff. Using an old key they found in the storage, they cautiously opened the door to room 313. Inside, the room was pristine, as if it had been untouched by the fire. The bed was neatly made, and on the bedside table sat a still functioning heart monitor, beeping softly. As Clara approached the bed, the heart monitor's beeping became erratic. Suddenly, the lights dimmed, and a cold gust of wind swept through the room. Lydia tried to call out to Clara, but her voice was drowned out by whispers that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Clara felt a hand grasp her wrist. She turned to find a spectral figure of a woman in a hospital gown, her eyes hollow and pleading. The ghostly woman whispered, "Help me, find peace." Startled, Clara yanked her hand away, causing the heart monitor to flatline. The two friends, heart pounding, quickly left the room and locked the door behind them. Once outside, they caught their breath, trying to process what they had just witnessed. The next day, they did some research and discovered that room 313 was occupied by a patient named Evelyn, who had tragically died in the fire. She was waiting for a heart transplant, but the organ never arrived due to the blaze. Realizing that Evelyn's spirit was trapped, seeking closure, Clara and Lydia decided to hold a small memorial for her. They lit candles, said prayers, and placed a symbolic heart on the bed in room 313. That night, the heart monitor in room 313 beat steadily for a few minutes and then went silent. From that day on, the haunting ceased, and the hospital corridors were filled with an inexplicable warmth. But Clara and Lydia never forgot the night they encountered the restless spirit of room 313 and the bond they shared in bringing peace to a tormented soul. Thank you for listening to the story. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and hit that bell icon. This way, you'll always stay updated with our latest tales.